When I saw the new fertilizer price, I'm like, holy crap. Talk about a kick to the gut.
Everybody's talking about oil and the Strait of Hormuz, and one discussion that I have not seen come up very often is fertilizer. And not to say it's a bigger problem, but it is certainly a comparable problem. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Since the strait effectively shut down in late February, fertilizer prices have spiked 30%. And who needs fertilizer? The farmers need fertilizer.
I'm a seventh generation farmer here in Ray County. I'm about 30 miles east of Kansas City. I farm corn, soybeans, wheat, and I've done some alfalfa in the past. I don't have any alfalfa right now.
Lance Lillibridge, who has been farming his whole life, says he is worried for this year's spring planting.
It couldn't have come at a worse time.
The war with Iran has led to skyrocketing diesel and fertilizer prices. Prices, Lillibridge says, that are piling onto an already struggling industry.
And it just feels like the world's trying to take this all away from us right now.
The situation is not driven by either the person producing the food or the person buying it. Thank you. And it will have significant ramifications for both those who produce our food and for those who eat it.
What do you mean a ton of fertilizer is $677? 1 ton, $677. 6 of the 8 major fertilizers were higher relative to last month, 15% more expensive than February, and 11% higher than a month ago. 1 in 4 American farmers have no fertilizer secured for spring planting. No fertilizer means no crops, means no food. Farm bankruptcies are up 46% in 2026, and 160,000 farms have closed since 2017. Less than half of all farmers were able to turn a profit this year, and we are being wiped out. We're not struggling, just being wiped out. Because between the price of fertilizer and diesel and gas, there is no way anyone's going to profit this year at all. Not to mention the weather. It's going to be a rough year, that's for sure.
There's a food crisis, and it's here right now. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Fertilizer prices are already up 40%, and it's about to get way worse in the fall. 25% of American farmers don't have enough fertilizer right now in April, and 15,000 small farms just went out of business this year. How chicken is more affordable than beef? Well, chickens eat grains, and we can't grow any. So that more cost-efficient meat is going to be more expensive. Less fertilizer means less corn. Less corn means farmers can't feed their flock, and then they got to sell it off earlier, which temporarily dips the price, but then it's going to catastrophically boom them for a long time. Let's not even talk about fruits and vegetables. The availability is about to be gone, and the prices are about to be gone. Trump cut $186 billion from food stamps. The USDA budget went down 19%. If you can get powdered milk, you better get it. But they can afford war, but we can't afford bread? Math is not mathing, and we've been trained to believe in a system that fucking hates us. Stock up as much as you can right now. Canned goods, rice, beans, oil, things you already eat. Welcome to the fucking hellscape. Lastly, food is medicine. They don't want us to have access. They don't want us to even have a modicum of health or the capability to have energy, time, resources to resist. Fuck.
Everybody's talking about oil and the Strait of Hormuz, and one discussion that I have not seen come up very often is fertilizer. And not to say it's a bigger problem, but it is certainly a comparable problem. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Since the strait effectively shut down in late February, fertilizer prices have spiked 30%. And who needs fertilizer? The farmers need fertilizer. And what do they need fertilizer for? To plant their crops. Spring planting starts in a couple of weeks. Corn goes in the ground in May, and you either have fertilizer by then or you plant less. There are estimates that the United States is facing a 25% shortage of its normal spring fertilizer supply. And farmers don't just need fertilizer, right? They need diesel to run their equipment, they need fuel to transport the grain to the market, and oil is up also because of Hormuz at $110 a barrel. Farmers are being hit unbelievably hard. One thing I think about is that we have a strategic petroleum reserve for oil, 400 million barrels sitting in salt caverns in Texas and Louisiana. But for fertilizer, there is no reserve. Dealers don't necessarily stockpile. Farmers just buy what they need when they need it. So it's a single choke point that's affecting all these different angles of global supply chain and the economy. And if it's not solved soon, it is an incredibly recessionary signal. Oil shocks are real. Supply shocks are real. When they come along, the people get hit the hardest. Thanks for watching.
I'm a seventh generation farmer here in Ray County. I'm about 30 miles east of Kansas City. I farm corn, soybeans, wheat, and I've done some alfalfa in the past. Don't have any alfalfa right now. It's a family farming operation. The whole operation consists of about 5,000 acres. We've seen steady increase of input prices over the last several years. The margins get smaller and smaller.
We really don't know what the prices are going to do. It does depend on how long this conflict keeps going, and if ships and containers can start to move through the Straits of Hormuz, that'll help. And obviously that would be best case scenario is to see those freighters moving back and forth here sooner than later.
We put all this money into seed, chemical, fertilizer, fuel, labor, machinery, repairs, all that stuff, parts, and you just hope that the good Lord gives you a crop to take care of all that.
Are you a farmer? If you're not a farmer, you don't have to pay attention. Since I'm in the financial world, every day I read the New York Times business section. Headline today, China bought $12.6 billion in U.S. soybeans last year. Now it's $0. Almost $13 billion versus zero. Farmers ain't going to be happy. Why did this happen? Yeah, because of Trump's tariffs. That's exactly why it happened. There is no other reason. Okay, you might say, what about other countries of the world? Are they buying American soybeans? Well, let's see. Total soybean exports to the rest of the world are still down 23% this year. Now, I feel badly for the farmers who overwhelmingly supported Donnie, but just like last time he was in office and they got screwed, they're going to hold their hands out for a handout. Are they going to call that socialism? Are they going to call that welfare? No, I don't know what they're going to call it, but they're going to ask for it. Do you think that's fair? I want the farmers to do well. Truly, we can't live without our farmers. But I wish they would realize what Trump is doing, has done, and will do. To make it easy, Trump screws everybody.
Secretary, what's your message to farmers who have been struggling with the rising costs of ethanol, gas, and fertilizer as this war continues?
Yeah, so fertilizer obviously has been an issue. The positive news on fertilizer is that America has enough. There are a lot of countries, because of the closure of the strait, they don't even have the fertilizer. We have enough in our country. The challenge comes obviously with the price, with the market obviously contracting and not having enough around the world. The prices have gone up. We have at USDA and across the government, just a week ago, did a press conference with Secretary Lutnick, Administrator Zeldin, had Secretary Burgum there, obviously working with Secretary Sean Duffy as well. For the short term, the waiver of the Jones Act, we've opened up lines of fertilizer from Venezuela. We just a couple of days ago with Sean Duffy announced some lightening of the transportation regulations that are out there to allow us to move more fertilizer. But it's also, we'll begin to see the prices come down. But the long term is where I really want to focus. What's happened in America with our fertilizer industry is nothing short of concerning. A couple decades ago, we had dozens of fertilizer companies in America. We had real competition. Today, we only have a handful. And so the president's vision of reshoring, not just manufacturing, frankly, not just some of our food supply, but also reshoring fertilizer is really important so we never, ever find ourselves in this position again. Secretary Lutnick has his investment fund that he is now, and again, working together across the government, is going to be moving some funds out of that to build some significant fertilizer plants in America. Because of President Trump's energy independence agenda, what that is now allowing us to do is the next step for fertilizer, which again, food security is national security, but to build our own plants here. So we'll start to see some of these plants come online in the next 12 to 18 months. Thank you.
The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and that's a huge deal. Let me tell you why. I'm V. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do based on what the American government is up to and where they're tossing their cash. It's Monday, so we're talking about stocks to watch and why. At this point, you've probably heard of the Strait of Hormuz, but you may not realize how closing a body of water on the opposite side of the planet affects you, besides causing gas prices to explode. The strait connects the Gulf of Oman to the Persian Gulf and is between the UAE and Iran. 25 to 35% of all fertilizer shipments go through the strait, so this is a global issue at this point. American farmers are very fortunate that we do have some fertilizer manufacturing here stateside. Those companies are probably going to benefit somewhat from this closure, but fertilizer is still about to skyrocket if 70% of all of it is unavailable. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Oman, and the UAE have cheap natural gas and manufacture a large percentage of the world's fertilizer. 50% of just the world's urea and sulfur exports come from countries west of the Hormuz and transit through there. We've already seen the gas prices increase. Everyone has already seen the gas prices increase already. And luckily we're in spring right now, so we don't have to worry about the French freezing yet, but this has already caused a 20% price surge in crude oil and liquefied natural gas prices, which is going to even further affect the prices of food along with other goods that are shipped. It's likely that farmers will plant fewer crops. It's not exactly a high margins profession. It just may not be worth it for some farmers with the increased fuel and fertilizer prices, along with fewer subsidies and help for farmers. We're probably going to see even higher prices on foods that we even make here domestically. For some crops, like corn, wheat, soybeans, and rice, fertilizer prices account for as much as 45% of operational costs. Our options are going to be to pay the higher prices and break even, apply less fertilizer and get a smaller yield, or switch crops entirely, which will alter the global food supply balance. Like I said, it's spring. It's literally time to plant here in the Northern Hemisphere. So people are making these decisions today. And we'll probably feel the effects in 3 to 9 months for fresh food, a little bit longer for processed foods like breads and sodas. Many of these grains are actually grown as animal foods, not human food. We'll probably see a huge wave of increased meat prices later on as well. We're looking at insane food price inflation at the end of this year into next year, and it will probably last a long time. The cost of shipping, as well as the premiums and shipping times, have also exploded. Even with Trump trying to make these assurances and gather a posse to lead ships through the strait, no one really wants to risk it. I wouldn't. We're going to see huge hikes in plane tickets and cruises. We're going to see a crazy amount of inflation on everything. Europe produces some of its fertilizers domestically, but many of those facilities still rely on imported raw materials, which is not great. The European continent is really going to hurt because of this. Russia and Belarus were their traditional fertilizer providers, but because of their ongoing shenanigans, that's not been an option for them either. And manufacturers are already facing a really tight squeeze because of high energy prices. Again, guess where they were getting all their oil and liquefied natural gas? I saw some reports that Southern Europe, such as Spain, Italy, and Greece, will probably see the price pressures before the rest of us. So here's some stocks that are relevant to this topic. You should do your own research and decide if these are options for you. I am just a talking head on the internet. If this is interesting to you, hit follow, hit like, come back for more. I've got more to say.
Doug Fuller's family has been farming in northern Polk County for generations.
Now I get to call all the shots.
He's already nervous about the cash crop he's about to start planting. Soybeans are the target of China's retaliatory tariff, 10% on certain imports from the United States, in response to President Trump's 10% blanket tariff on Chinese goods. Fuller is fearful it spells bad news for the 2025 harvest.
You know, they aren't good for the other countries, they aren't good for me, and who could blame them putting reciprocal tariffs on us? You know, it's just a match, you know, and nobody's going to win.
China is one of the largest overseas markets for American soybeans. According to the USDA, the United States exported nearly $13 billion in soybeans to China last year alone. Fuller has already faced 2 years of bean prices dropping and says it looks as if the trend may continue.
Last year we took a step back, and now we're taking another step back. So I'm, you know, many of us we'll get through it, and it's going to be tough on others.
This is what agriculture is about. We had some friends, they planted some watermelons. They little old babies down through there. They're supposed to get a freeze tonight. They're trying to save them. So what do? Cow people, we had hay, truckloads of it. Bring it to them. You can have it. Save your crop. Ag people don't ask no questions. They help each other. That's what it's about. That's what feeds America right there. Little stuff that a lot of people don't know about. Give it to them. They're going to burn it and try to save these plants. So just remember, somebody's in need, help them out. You never know when you might need it. And that's what I'm saying about the agricultural industry. Like, this right here ain't got nothing to do with cows. This is damn melons and farming. I'm telling you, the ag industry is different. It ain't like construction or anything like that. And they out to get you. These boys got a lot of work in this right here. trying to make a little bit of money. So losing the crop, they don't want to do that. And we're going to do anything we can help them with. They're going to burn it and try to get some smoke going across there. Hopefully them little boogers don't get burnt up too bad. Because that's their livelihood right there we're trying to help with.
Rising fuel prices and concerns about the economy are costing Republicans some voters in the red state of Iowa, and GOP leaders are trying to mitigate the damage. I spoke with Senate Minority Leader and Democrat Janice Weiner about what she's hearing from voters, as well as what she makes of Vice President J.D. Vance campaigning for Republicans in the state.
My take is that they are very worried about Iowa this cycle, with good reason.
What are those reasons?
And I have literally, in all the years I've been knocking doors, I have never heard such anger at the doors. Not anger at me, because as I was asking them, what's keeping you up at night? What are your concerns? What do you want to see state government doing? They are angry about what's going on in Washington, and they're also just worried about their kids' public schools, and they are really worried about gas prices now. Nobody's really addressing our needs, and I think that's one of the reasons that, frankly, that we won the special elections last year, is because we had good local candidates who were known in their areas, who listened to the people and what they want there. And I don't think that national politicians are paying attention here. You can't just slap on tariffs willy-nilly, destroy the markets for our soybean farmers, and expect everything to go great. You can't raise the price of fertilizer at planting season and expect things to go great. You just can't ignore the people who are in the heart of this country. We are not just flyover country.
Well, Iowa farmers are going through it. Not just Iowa farmers, but check this one out.
The reality he and thousands of other Iowa farmers are facing is nowhere near as bright.
Farmers are under a lot of stress. A lot of farmers are reporting to us that in some cases they're on the brink of a crisis.
The reasons why vary. Iowa Corn Growers Association President Mark Mueller says the skyrocketing costs and availability of fertilizer, which is largely controlled by just a few companies, is the most current issue.
I'd say it's safe to say that my fertilizer company is making more money per acre than I am off of the corn I raise. And I'm not even sure I'll be making money on corn this year.
But some say it's merely the latest. Ultimately, the problem
Fertilizer
is
up 77%. They're paying over $5 a gallon for gas. They're in the middle of a trade war. And let's just add, fertilizer, 1/5 of where we get our fertilizer is stuck at the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, yep, Iowa voted for this administration, and likely these farmers voted for this 3 times. And no, this is not the first time that Trump did this to them. He screwed over farmers in his first term. We're stumbling into all these FAFOs, and if you saw, he mentioned high farm suicide, bankruptcies. I've reported on all of those. This is going to be a very rough time for all farmers in the USA, a very, very hard lesson that they can only learn themselves. If you found this post sad but informative, please like, comment, follow, and share.
Everybody's talking about oil and the Strait of Hormuz, and one discussion that I have not seen come up very often is fertilizer. And not to say it's a bigger problem, but it is certainly a comparable problem. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Since the strait effectively shut down in late February, fertilizer prices have spiked 30%. And who needs fertilizer? The farmers need fertilizer. And what do they need fertilizer for? To plant their crops. Spring planting starts in a couple of weeks. Corn goes in the ground in May. And you either have fertilizer by then or you plant less. There are estimates that the United States is facing a 25% shortage of its normal spring fertilizer supply. And farmers don't just need fertilizer, right? They need diesel to run their equipment. They need fuel to transport the grain to the market. And oil is up also because of Hormuz at $110 a barrel. Farmers are being hit unbelievably hard. One thing I think about is that we have a strategic petroleum reserve for oil, 400 million barrels sitting in salt caverns in Texas and Louisiana. But for fertilizer, there is no reserve. Dealers don't necessarily stockpile. Farmers just buy what they need when they need it. So it's a single choke point that's affecting all these different angles of global supply chain and the economy. And if it's not solved soon, it is an incredibly recessionary signal. Oil shocks are real, supply shocks are real. When they come along, the people get hit the hardest. Thanks for watching.
Spring is here, which means it's planting season in Iowa. For corn farmers preparing to sow their fields, the war with Iran couldn't have come at a worse time.
So this is the fertilizer.
Right.
So how much did the price of it go up after the war in Iran erupted?
It went up about $250 a ton in my neck of the woods.
Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical transit point for a third of the world's fertilizer, sent the price soaring. The cost of two widely used nitrogen fertilizers shot up by 20 and 50% in the first few weeks of the war. A decade of inflation, low commodity prices, and tariffs have squeezed Jolene Reason's profit margins. She's now facing her toughest year yet as a farmer.
You know, every year's a risk when you farm, but this has kind of been compounding. You know, our prices have been low, and yet our input costs continue to ratchet up.
With the price of fertilizer already higher than last year, she put off buying until last month, hoping the price would go down. Then the war started, and the opposite happened. With the window to plant closing, she had little choice but to buy at a high price.
For the amount of fertilizer I was going to buy, it had gone up about $13,000 in 2 days. What pot does that come out of? You know, fertilizer price, we can't control. Fuel price, we can't control. Where is it all going to end up? We don't know.
This is like the worst I've ever seen it. Gambling what our futures are going to look like.
Farmer Lance Lillibridge has been representing Iowa corn growers for 14 years.
The current conflict in Iran is hurting farmers everywhere in Iowa and across the country. If we're not able to sustain our land with the nutrients that's needed to grow a crop, then our yields are going to go down, eventually going to drive up the price of corn, which is what we use to feed chickens, pigs, and cattle, amongst other things. And eventually that is going to go back to the consumer at the grocery store.
While it may take some time for shoppers to see the price increase reflected in their groceries, Jolene's costs continue to climb higher than what she makes for her corn.
This is the corn that we've been talking about.
Yep.
At today's price of corn, she could lose roughly $110 per acre across her 530 acres.
We just did the math, and so maybe looking at losing $58,000. So what am I going to do to negate that? I have never lost quite that much before.
Still, she has hope the price of corn will go up this year to offset at least some of that loss. She keeps a close eye on its every move in the market.
Time to check the markets.
How many times a day are you checking the prices?
Sometimes half dozen times a day, and sometimes that isn't enough. Now you know that at closing at 2 o'clock they were up 4 cents, and now they're down 2 cents, which means that was a 6 cents move in the market. Crazy.
And today I'm promising to request additional farm relief for our great patriots in the next funding bill.
Last month, the Trump administration lifted sanctions on fertilizer sales from Belarus and Venezuela to try to ease the price surge and promised more aid to farmers. Still, Jolene is making hard calculations to stay on the farm that has been in her family for 85 years.
Those income sources could very well be selling some equipment. There's a chance that there could be some ground sold. And then what are you left with? For some farmers, it's a legacy. That's my legacy that I'm selling. If it was up to me, the war would be done yesterday.
Farmers are speaking out, and this time people are actually paying attention because across Iowa, frustration is growing fast, not over headlines, not over social media drama, but over something much more real: the cost of farming itself. Fertilizer prices are climbing so high that many farmers are starting to ask serious questions about the future. And when fertilizer prices goes up, everything changes. Planting becomes more expensive, production becomes more risky, profit margins shrink, and for small farmers especially, that pressure hits hard. Now, imagine waking up every day knowing your costs keep rising, but there is only so much you can charge before customer feels the impact too. That's the reality many Ohio farmers are dealing with right now, and some are expressing disappointment because they expected things to get easier, not harder. You can hear it in interviews, you can see it in online reaction. Farmers talking about stress, uncertainty, trying to hold on why prices continue climbing, because farming isn't just a business for many people. It's a family history, it's generation of work, it's survival. And when the cost of essential like fertilizer goes through the roof, it creates fear about what comes next. With smaller farms for five, will food prices keep increasing? How long can people absorb this cost before something break? Those are the questions being asked right now. And honestly, a lot of people outside farming communities are only beginning to realize how serious this issue really is. Because when farmers struggle, eventually everybody feels it. At the grocery store, at restaurants, almost everywhere. That's why these conversations are getting louder. Not because people want drama, but because rising costs are becoming impossible to ignore. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think? Are rising farming costs becoming a bigger crisis than more people realize? Drop your thoughts in the comment. Let's have a real discussion about it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because stories like this affect more people than we think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.